I'm Anna. I'm stepping in for Matt today to introduce the 5th installment of the first Synth series. If you're new to the series, there will be a link in the description to the rest of the episodes so you can catch up. We're so pleased to have Jameson Nathan Jones, Waxadisc Music with Rab Jam Web, Echo Kraft, and Travis Avey sharing their first Synth stories with you. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Jameson Nathan Jones. I make music with synthesizers and videos about making music with synthesizers. First of all, thank you, Matt, for the invitation to be on this video. I am truly honored to be on your channel and talk about my first synthesizer. And I wish it was a simple story, but it's really the story of two synthesizers. And I'll try to get through this quickly. I started taking piano lessons at about the age of 8. And started to get kind of bored with it around my early teen years, when it started to get hard. Well, my dad very intelligently realized this and started introducing me into progressive rock bands that he liked when he was younger, like Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, bands that had really cool keyboard parts and keyboard players like Rick Wakeman and Keith Emerson. And that's really where my intrigue with synthesizers and electronic music started, even though I didn't fully understand what a synth was at the time. I just knew I wanted to put on a cape and shred in front of a stadium full of people. So I started to, rifle through the catalogs that we had at home from Musician's Friend, I think it was. And I, of course, chose the most scientific method of choosing your first synth, and it was based on how many knobs it had. See, I looked at Rick Wakeman and saw his Mini-Moog. Had no idea what a Mini-Moog was at the time, but I saw that Mini-Moog and thought, well, that's a lot of knobs and switches. I should have something like that. And I ended up picking an Alesis Ion, which was a virtual analog synth. Didn't know what that meant either, but it looked pretty cool. Well, I went on to pursue composition and classical piano and organ, so I kind of left my love of synthesis behind for a while. I didn't come back to it until years later after I had finished my master's degree in piano. I wanted to get into film scoring and making my own music with a computer. And of course, according to the internet, I don't know if you remember back in the early 2010s, it was all about analog, and anything that wasn't analog was crap. And of course, I was very young, naive, and impressionable, and so I looked at my virtual analog Alesis Ion and thought, well, this is a fake synth. I can't possibly make any real music on this thing. It's not pure analog. And I sold it. I know. So I decided I needed something real analog, and I was really intrigued by the idea of modular synthesis. At this point, I had moved on from how many knobs to how many patch points does it have, and I began to look at the MS-20 Mini, which seemed affordable, and I had no money at the time, so that was a good thing for me. And I bought the MS-20, and I found my favorite set of filters that I've yet to experience on a synthesizer. I absolutely loved the way the thing could scream in the most musical ways. I found that it really encouraged me to be more hands-on and to, sweep those filters around with high resonance and find where those, harmonic resonances started to really, rub against each other in unique ways. And that really sparked my desire to get even more into the sound design side of synthesis. Over the course of the next decade or so, I got more synthesizers. And I found that my MS-20 was just sitting there a lot. And I started using it as a sound processor, essentially, where I would run, string parts that I had recorded into the computer through its filters and do interesting sound design things that way. Then I got into Eurorack, it's over there by the way, and I got a clone of the MS-20 filter to go in my Eurorack, and it was stereo. And of course I thought, well, I don't need the MS-20 anymore, and I sold it too, and that led Tony Anderson to call me a potential murderer.
First of all, it was my first synth. And anyone who gets rid of their first synth is also a murderer on the side. They are. Everyone should look around right now, and if you sold your first synth, you're not a safe person. I should say this, you're not a trustworthy no.
So do I regret my decision? Yes. I wish I still had the MS-20 and the Alesis Ion, just for sentimental reasons, if nothing else, even though I really wasn't using them in the way that they should have been used. And I hope whoever has both of those synthesizers is enjoying them and putting them to good use to make actual music, because I'm not super interested in collecting synthesizers as much as making my own music with them. That's what I absolutely love to do. Thanks again, Matt, for allowing me the opportunity to sort of rehash all of these traumas and talk about all of the many mistakes of my past.
Rob Jan Webb. I am predominantly a house and disco music producer. I've done lots of different things over the years, from ambient albums to funk albums, etc. I've had hit records in the pop charts, blah, 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 blah. You can check me out on anywhere you want to find me. I've been asked by Matt to do this video regarding the first synth, so I thought I would get stuck into it. Now, my first synth ever, I won't say synth, my first proper keyboard ever was a Casio SK5 little sampler keyboard. And I used to plug it into a Fostex 4-track recorder and make really crude demos, sampling bits of records and whatnot. However, a couple of years later down the line in 1995, I finally got an Atari ST, and I decided to spend £500, which was a lot of money back then, on a Korg X5D synthesizer. It was brand new straight out of the box, and I absolutely wanted it. I spent weeks saving this money, and I got it. I was 19 at the time. The reason why I chose that synth was because it had all of the kind of staple sounds on it for dance music at that time. It wasn't a synth that had loads of gadgets on it. It was quite a lot of presets that were just ready to go. And I loved it, and it had the M1 piano sound, which was synonymous with house music back in those days. You had to have that M1 rock piano sound if you wanted to make dance music of piano-based styles. So obviously that was a big selling point. And the strings on there were good, the Anna strings and all those kind of things, and the pads and all that sort of stuff was just staple sounds that helped me make, demos of dance music styles. Why did I choose it? I chose that over I think it was an EMU rack. I was debating which one to get, and the EMU rack obviously required an extra controller, which I didn't have any money for. So it was, right, let's get that and we'll go for it. So I had that for a number of years. I had that from 95 to about 2003, when I actually sold all of my studio at the time when everything started going digital. 2003, 2004 maybe, I started to go pure digital with Reason and things like that. It was a no-brainer at the time. I regret it now, but so no, I don't still have the synth. I sold it a long time ago, and just basically because I went digital, really. And the things that I miss about that synth probably are just the instant plug and play. However, the irony is I've got the Korg Legacy synths now on VST, so I've got all of those sounds anyway at the touch of a button, plus more. I've got the Poly 6 and all the the Wave Station, etc. So when I do want those kind of classic staple sounds for my tracks, I just pull them out and put them on there. But it's still not the same as having the physical machine and touching the buttons and all that kind of thing. I used to just love it. It was just slick looking piece of kit, and it was a right little great little weapon to have in the studio. The things I miss about it, as I say, is just the instant plug and play of it, and just the the raviness of it, I suppose. And basically, I did consider buying one again recently. They go for about £200 now online, as second hand, and that's in good condition as well. And there's quite a few of them still knocking about. Have I thought about buying one? Yeah, of course I have. I looked the other week, actually, when I thought about this video. If I bought one again, I would probably use it for 10 minutes and then I'd file it, I'd store it away. Because I just have everything now on digital, pretty much. I've got a live rig left here. I've got a Roland JDXI. I've got a TD303 replica. I've got a Korg Volca sampler. And I've got a Roland J6 chord machine, sequence machine there. And I use that as a little live sort of setup now. Over the years, I've had countless synths. I've had a Korg MS2000, Roland this, Roland that. So many, the Korg little monologue things, those analog things. I've had loads of them. I've been through, I don't know how many, gadgets and whatnot over the years. But yeah, the Korg X5D was my, it was my crown in my jewel, I suppose, for a while, for quite a number of years. It was just one of those great things. You could make rock on it, pop, dance, techno, house, anything you wanted, you could make on it. And I suppose that's what I loved about it. It was quite versatile. So yeah, so that was it. So thank you for listening to my synthesizer history. I hope you enjoyed it. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jay, aka Echo Kraft. Yeah, I have a small YouTube channel that I basically show off synths and other electronic gear, musical equipment, called Echo Kraft on YouTube. And I appreciate Matt for having me on. This is really cool. I love the synth community, but let's get right to it. So when I was like, I don't know, must have been like 12 or 13 years old, I was with my dad and we were in a mall, and there was a music store in the mall, and they had way in the back, it was a Moog, I think it was a Moog Mini. And yeah, it was a Mini Moog. And it had a couple of speakers that they had hooked up, like a little tiny PA. I think it was a custom PA. And it had a sign on it that said, "Do not touch, ask salesman." So my father said, "Don't touch that." And I was like, okay. But the salesman came over and said, "No, go ahead, you can play with it." So I sat there and I hit one key and it was just like, wow. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. And then I started listening to bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes, and switched on Bach. My sister had bought me for my birthday, and I just loved synthesizers, but I could never afford them. Moog back then was like $4,500. My dad looked at the price and said, "Come on, let's get out of here." So basically, I craved wanting a synthesizer since I was a kid, and finally, probably, like I said, it was like in 1986 or 84, I don't even remember, but it was in the 80s that I was able to afford to buy my first synth, and that was the Juno 106. Why did I choose the Juno 106? Well, let's see. It was fat, it was analog, and it was affordable. That was the other thing. And also the 80s, what I loved about the 80s is that everything went. I played in heavy metal bands all my life, rock and roll bands, but I was always in love with synthesizers. I ended up trading it in actually and buying a Korg M1, which I highly regret. Not that I got the Korg M1. Korg M1 was a great keyboard. I had that for many years, and I also used it as a controller. It was a great controller. But the Juno 106, I regret selling it. So later on, a couple of years later, I ended up buying a used one, which served me well. So I had the M1 and the Juno. And yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of different things. The reasons why I got rid of it were kind of silly, but I did what I did. So I ended up getting rid of that used one as well. And I got a Fismo, the Ensoniq Fismo. There was only a few made, and I got one. Did I like it? Yes, it was interesting. It was very interesting. It was transforming, I believe, synthesis. Very strange synthesizer. All digital. But yeah, I still love the Juno 106. I actually ended up buying one of the Roland Boutique Juno 106s, or JU6, whatever. I'm bad with names, I said. And yeah, I really like the synthesizer, and I really like that analog sound. So then I outfitted my entire studio with digital and analog synths. So maybe I could show you around a little bit and show you some of the stuff that I have that I still love and that I'm still buying. I actually have a closet full of synthesizers as well. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy synthesizers. I have several guitars, I have an electronic drum kit, but synthesizers and drum machines are my passion. Just a few of my synths. I've got some Behringer stuff up here, the RD6, the TD3 MO. This is the DeepMind 12, the Arteria Matrix Brute. And then under here, I don't know if you can see it. I should have pulled it out, but I didn't. It's a Dave Smith instrument, Rev 2. Then I have the Behringer 2600, which I really like. And then I have a Behringer MS1. And I have the Korg Wave State, the Korg OP6. I have the Korg Mini Lug, the Korg Mod Wave, Roland TR8, TR8S, and the Drum Brute Impact. Then I have a vocoder by Roland. I have a Boss Slicer, which is really cool. I have a Roland Boutique TB03, and then I have the Roland TB3. And then I just purchased this guy here. This is basically the Expressive E Osmos, which I really love. And I have virtually a bunch of guitars that I love, and also, excuse me, but this is my modded Alesis Nitro mesh kit, which is very modded out. I did a lot of tweaking and buying stuff and making it feel like a Roland drum kit, which it isn't, but it works really well. I use Easy Drummer 3 with it. So yeah. Oh, and I forgot. This is this is a cute little piece of equipment. This is a Donor Sin Bass, or B1, which actually is pretty cool. So yeah, you know, I have a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna take you around the room one more time. So yeah, so there you have it. My synth workshop, my studio. Yeah. Again, I want to thank you, Matt, for having me. I love the series, and everybody stay creative. All right? Peace.
Hello, my name's Travis Avey. I make videos here on the old YouTube. Usually ambient synth music, just improv kind of playing or whatever, or sometimes doing gear reviews. And first of all, I'd like to thank Matt for having me on his channel to discuss the story of my first synth. I'm a really small channel, so I really appreciate it, so thank you very much. So I'm really a guitarist at heart. I recently found and fell in love with synth music, and synths in general. And the first synth I purchased was the Micro Freak. So when I first got it, I was already making music on a 2014 Mac Mini. I was doing progressive rock. I was trying to make music like Dream Theater. If you know anything about Dream Theater, you know each and every one of the musicians are world-class musicians. So trying to do that solo is kind of a joke, really. I guess it's time for some self-reflection time. Anyways, some things happened in 2020. And I needed some music to stay focused while working from home remotely. And I stumbled on YouTube a channel called Night Ride FM, which had like a chill wave synth FM, and I think the Night Ride FM also. I was really digging all the music they were playing. Once again, it helped me stay focused while working. And I found, eventually I heard a song by Neon Knox called Twisted Getaway. And then shortly after that, I heard Red Eyes by Zombie Hyperdrive. Basically, I found the music I wanted to record and make because it was synth with guitar. So my two worlds kind of just came into one. My love for guitar and my newfound love for synth. So that's the music I really wanted to make, is synthwave with guitar. Not knocking the genre of synthwave, but this is so much easier to create as a solo musician producer versus prog rock. But I didn't have any synths at the time. I had soft synths, but messing with parameters of the little knobs in software can be kind of frustrating at times. So that's really when I decided I wanted to get into hardware. I wanted to move some sliders and turn some knobs just to hear the analog engine do its stuff while I'm playing. And after pouring through a bunch of different YouTube videos that were kind of targeting the $500 range or less on different synths, I ended up on the Micro Freak just because all the things I was hearing I really liked, and it was just a little different, you know. And I did want to keep it on that $500 range mark just in case I decided it wasn't for me. I even went and got this off Amazon and got it used. Unfortunately, I had a couple small issues with mine. So I had to send it in twice actually, and the second time they actually sent me back a brand new one just because they, I guess, messed up somewhere. They didn't really tell me exactly what happened, but I ended up with a brand new one out of the deal. And so far, no issues with it, so knock on wood. And now I have a few more tabletop synths. I still want some more. I really want the Moog Mother 32. Plus, I would like to get something like a 61 or an 88 key, full size, kind of like the the center stage of my studio down here. So I'm looking at like maybe their Arturia Polybrute, maybe something from Korg or Prophet, or if I really had the money, a Moog 1. But I still have the Microfreak, and I still use it to this day. It sits next to all my other synths and is kind of just ready to go if I need to make some sounds, kind of experiment and just play it, basically. They're just ready to go. That's what I really like. I kind of moved everything to a table, or a desk actually, so I can just kind of plug and play. I probably want to get myself a patch bay at some point, but as of now, it's pretty ready to go, so I can just start plucking away or tapping away at it and see what kind of sounds I can get out of it. But honestly, I think the Microfreak needs something like a chorus or reverb to sound pretty good. I bought a tube preamp to kind of help warm it up a bit also, and I usually run it through either the Empress Reverb or Valhalla Shimmer or even Valhalla Supermassive to thicken up the sound and make it sound so much better. Anyway, I think that's why the Mini Freak actually has built-in FX. And if I were deciding today if I was going to buy the Microfreak, I'd probably land on the Mini Freak instead, just because of the keys alone, and it's got more keys on it and the built-in FX. But I recently released a produced ambient track using the Microfreak. I used a pad for it, and I called the song The Portal. I released it for Halloween, just an hour-long ambient track. I liked what it sounded like. I also decided to go full analog, just about, on a track for my band, Analog Dreaming. I used all the synths on there are hardware. The only thing that wasn't was the drums. I used Addictive Drums 2, and then for my guitar, I went through a Neural DSP plugin. And that song is called The Passage of Time, if you wanted to check it out. But I was listening to a lot of Dream Theater and Snarky Puppy at the time of producing that track, so it's got a mode change or two and probably a time signature change or two, so it's a little bit different for synthwave. So yeah, although not a perfect synth, I still have it and I still plan on using it. I just think it sounds a little bit Metallica without effects, but kind of hard to pass up all the interesting sounds you can make with it. I guess that's why they call it the Freak. Anyways, thank you so much for having me on your channel to kind of share my story with my first synth. So thanks, and I hope to see you soon.
Our sincere thanks to today's presenters, and thank you for stopping by to watch this video. We'll see you next time.